Hello, and here we are on this nice, cool, brisk day. I forgot my gloves. And we are the Pleasantville Garden Club, and our show is outside in the garden. And where are we today, Michael?
Today, Gigi, we're at Rocky Hills, the garden of Barbara Romeo, which was developed by Henrietta Cerra. It's quite a famous local garden, and we're very grateful to be here. And we're going to be looking at dahlias today, right, Gigi?
Right. And we have a full cast today. We have Barbara Romeo, who lives here, and Tess Cerra, and Carolyn Ramsey. And every one of them is expert on dahlias. And I'm going to learn a lot.
Yeah, so am I. And we're going to look at dahlias. We're also going to be talking a little bit at the end about other plants that you should be digging up and bringing in at this time of year.
And you wait till it's this cold, huh?
I think probably we've done quite a few already, but we're going to do a few more.
Okay.
Great.
All right. Let's go meet Barbara.
Wonderful.
Okay, so here we are with Barbara on my right and Tess on my left. And this is the dahlia garden right here. And it's ready to be picked up. So what's the first thing you do, Barbara, when you...
Okay, so the first thing, obviously, we've already dug some of ours that were here before. These are the remnants that have just turned black in the last week with the freeze. So what you do...
So you wait until it's...
I didn't totally. I waited for some, these ones. Some I've already started because I have over 110.
Okay.
So it takes a while to do all that. So I left some to do still.
So it's okay to go a little bit earlier than
it's okay to go a little bit earlier.
I think you told me about 120 days. Is that
That's the key, is sort of that they be in the ground for 120 days.
Okay.
And these have been there much longer than that, definitely. So each one of these is marked with a tag, so I know what it is, and I'll wrap it and put that around. So the first thing I do is simply cut it down. So you have a nice stump here. Clear the leaves away so you can see what you're doing. And then you need to have your pitchfork. Use a pitchfork. You want always to go straight in. If you go at an angle, you might possibly slice into the tuber. This is a new plant this year, so it may not be too big a tuber, but you just start from a distance away.
So you're about 12 inches away?
About 12 inches away.
Yeah. Okay.
And you kind of go around it and loosen it up. You can see it's starting to loosen.
Yep.
And when you feel like you've gotten under it.
Oh, I'm hearing the roots. Is
that
okay?
I broke, yep.
Okay.
Yep, it's going to let go of some roots. You just don't want it to let go of the tubers.
Okay.
So, okay, we've got this just about up, I think. And then I just, with hands, go under. Oh, here we go.
Look at that.
This is one big tuber.
One big tuber.
Yep, it's about twice the size it started out as. And I want to have the tag with it. And I want to just cut off. So you cut this off.
Okay.
You cut the roots off.
Okay.
Like this. And then I'm going to store this. And what I'm going to do is for about 2 days, it's going to be on newspaper in the garage, which has some heat in it. It won't freeze. And then after it's dried out enough, I wrap it in newspaper and put it in a box, and it stays in the garage till next spring.
And will that be one more next year, or does it sometimes double?
This one didn't double. I was wondering, that's why I wanted to try a brand new one that we tried. Okay. Sometimes you do it. This may have more when we dig this one up. Close. There we go. Okay. We've got it all. We've got it all. We've got quite a ball here. And as you can see, you knock off, these scissors are fantastic to do this with. Knock off all your dirt.
Wow.
Just so you can see what you've got here.
Yeah.
And we've got quite a number that have
So you planted just one, and these...
I planted, this would have had 2 to start with, probably.
Okay.
But clearly we've got a number more here.
Right. Does it matter the size? Because I see some are very small and some...
You know, if you have something like this, cut it off, it's never going to do anything for you. Just get rid of it. It just takes up storage.
How about that little one there?
This one No, same with
Ah,
that.
that's
These
gone.
little ones aren't going to do anything for you. And
Okay.
the most important thing of all is your neck, because that's where next year's buds are going to come out of. So you want to be really careful never to break that neck, never to damage it. The ends of this can actually be cut a little bit, and if you've sliced a little, but you see that the neck's still intact, you can sprinkle a little cinnamon or something on just to kind of heal it and store it, and it'll probably be fine.
What are you sticking on?
Cinnamon.
Cinnamon.
You can dust with cinnamon.
Okay.
So if I by accident had sliced across one of these, and you see it looks like a potato. You know, you've
Yeah.
cut into a potato. Just sprinkle a
And
little
this cinnamon will heal it.
It will help preserve. You know, it doesn't rot that way.
Oh, so it keeps it from rotting.
Exactly.
Right. Well, that was very
So-
interesting. I'm going to turn it over to Carolyn Ramsey now, and you're going to store with her. Show us how to store it.
Okay.
So Barbara, my favorite part is seeing those shoots in the spring, but we have a little work to do before we get there.
Just a little.
How do you like to save your dahlias for the winter? Can you show us?
Sure, there's so many different ways. I don't think there's a right or a wrong way to do it. But what I've been doing for over 30 years is after you've dug them up and they look like this, they just came out of the ground, brush off as much of this dirt as you can, trim off as much, including any rotted sort of, here's one you can see has rotted. You don't want to be putting that away in your box for next spring.
I have often found that the single tuber I planted gets a little iffy looking. They call that the mother tuber.
The mother tuber, yep.
And sometimes that one rots, but it produces a whole bunch of wonderful young healthy babies.
Exactly, exactly. I'm kind of reluctant to cut away the mother tuber unless it's really, if it's squishy and it's rotted or it's broken in here, I will take it out. But otherwise, I'll leave it and see what it wants to come up with next year.
Sure.
So this will sit on my garage floor on newspaper for about 2 days. After a day, I go out and shake it and make sure we've got more soil coming off of it. And after about 2 days, it looks like this one, which came out 2 days ago. It's dried. All the soil is pretty much off of it. And this is ready to be wrapped in newspaper is what I do. And then I put them in a box in my garage. Now this one actually came from a much larger group that as soon as I picked it up, it fell apart. So I had 3 other pieces, which I've already wrapped. This one, though, can actually be, if anyone wants to see how you might be able to divide off, this is a good tuber here. It's got eyes, clearly. It can be divided off from these. Just simply, if you very carefully cut between, you want to be careful of this one here. You're always going to be careful of the eye, which is right at the neck of the tuber. You never want to cut that badly or you won't get any flower out of it. Okay, so now instead of one, we've got this nice big tuber. This is probably too small for anything. I'll clip that off. And then we've got this one, which has at least 2 that I see eyes on in here. And we've now got these 2 ready to be wrapped in newspaper.
You were talking about using cinnamon as a fungicide. Would you show us how you would do that? I happen to have some right here for you.
Okay. Just simply, does it sprinkle? It
does.
Sprinkles. I literally just sprinkle just a touch of it anywhere where you've cut it, where you have a piece of raw, where maybe when you were doing the pitchfork and you sliced off a little slice, but you still got a tuber with some good eyes, you just put some cinnamon on it and it'll keep it from rotting, or at least that's what I've found.
You know, it's funny. I think my favorite dahlia might be one called creme de cassis.
Oh, that's right here. I've got one of them.
I don't know if you grow it.
I love it.
But I had sliced a tuber literally in half and I was crushed, but I sprinkled it with cinnamon.
Yep.
It healed over and it grew for me and I still have it. So
yeah.
I'm a big believer in the cinnamon.
Yeah, creme de cassis is a beauty.
It is.
Is a small bush type one, and it has these very light pink with a deep purple underneath. So when you see it on the side, you've got both the colors coming through. It's a beauty.
It's wonderful.
It's a beauty.
Wonderful.
It also makes multiples. So I think, this is Bishop of Landolph. That's a little bit different one. That's one of the black ones with a bright red flower.
Very nice.
So I would take this and literally just take some newspaper, which I've been saving the newspapers for a month or so, just to make sure I had enough. Stick it in here. Wrap it like this. Wrap it over a few times. And I will mark this. I happen to know this is one of my white water lily ones. And then just put it in a cardboard box. And then that box goes into my garage, which is never freezing. There's slight heat in there. So it's somewhere between 40 and 50 degrees in there at all times. So I've never had a problem with them freezing, but I also haven't had a problem with them rotting because it's too warm. Your problem is either they're going to freeze or they're going to rot because the temperature goes up into the 50s or 60s and it's too much for them.
I also find that they need to be in an environment that has sufficient humidity.
Yes.
You know, it's kind of this dance with these variables, the temperature, the humidity. And, you know, I think that the saran wrap method I thought was absolutely crazy when I heard about it years ago. I would like to show you because I think it's kind of interesting. If you just have a few dahlias and you prefer to divide in the fall. Now, these are two different dahlias that I dug up this morning. This one is easy to divide because it's really only got a couple of tubers. This one, on the other hand, is much more complicated. And like Barbara, I would take off all of the little ones and the roots and so forth. But just for the purposes of a quick show, I'm going to use this one and show you what the saran wrap method looks
that
like.
shows where you've got a broken tuber too. Somebody
yes,
might,
this is useful.
When you've broken the neck.
Now, for all of you cooks out there, one of my crazy dahlia friends sent me a recipe for dahlia bread. As we make zucchini bread, you can make dahlia bread. And in Asia, people have been eating dahlias for centuries. So that could be a good use for this one where I broke the neck when I dug it up. But we're looking for eyes in here. I'm going to borrow these because they're going to be a little stronger for this. We talked about the stem here, which we all know. This kind of rounded part here is called the crown. And you always have to have a piece of crown with your tuber because the crown is where the eyes develop and those are the buds for next year's shoots. So when you're dividing, you want to make sure that you have plenty of crown on each side. So I'm going to cut through there. I love these long snips for this particular job. I'm going to take off this root. The first time I did this, it hurt me. I felt like I was doing a bad thing, but apparently makes no difference at all to the plant. Now, if I were at home, I would let this dry a day or two. I often wash them. If it's a frigid day, I don't bother. But then I would sprinkle it with my cinnamon. I have a pre-made label. And I would wrap it airtight and then get ready to put the next one in. So the next one, lots of nice crown on this. Cut off these little bits. The next one goes right in and you end up with a cluster. And I keep them in the dark in a box, aiming for around 45 or 50 degrees. So this has been such an interesting discussion. I love your beautiful dahlias, and I can't wait to see what happens next spring when the eyes come out.
I know, it's so exciting when you pull them out of the box and you find you've got all these little shoots starting, you're just seeing the eyes. And I'm somebody who divides in the spring instead, because I find when they start just starting to bud out, you can really see where the divisions are.
So Barbara, some other plants that we need to be taking care of as they're not really hardy up here are cannas. So you have a lovely canna here.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Tell us a little bit about what you do with cannas.
There are a number of ways, again, like the dahlias, that you can decide to store them. I take the easy way out. I literally cut the right down to soil level, and I take the pot and I drag it into the garage and I store it for the winter.
That's easy.
And come springtime, I pull it out, let it wake itself up, and then I will take it out and divide, because by then you usually have a multiple of them in there. But that's just one way to do it.
Just one
There's
way.
certainly other
Yeah.
ways to do it.
Yeah, I'd like to show our viewers that I actually dig the cannas up, and it's quite interesting when you look at them. You can really see how the old bulb, which was down here, the single
Yep.
bulb, has now created so many new babies.
Yeah.
And I just keep it like this, and I wrap it in newspaper, put it in a box, label it, and
Do you cut off all the roots like one does with the dahlia, or not
I
bother?
don't actually even
You
bother.
don't even bother.
No, I think
Okay.
you can. I don't.
Yep.
I don't know if
Yeah.
there's a specific way that works.
Yeah.
The other thing I wanted to try this year, and I've never done this before, is sweet potato vine, which is in my hanging boxes.
Yep.
And I dug it up this year, and I got lots of sweet potatoes. First thing I thought was, well, can I eat these? And I heard that they don't taste great, but they taste okay. You can eat them, of course. You know, they're starch. But I'm going to keep these this year in newspaper and a box, and I'll see if I can
Worth
grow
a try.
sweet potato vines. And then the last plant I wanted to talk about is my agapanthus. And as you can see, it's been out still, even though we've had a couple of frosts. But you don't want to dig these up out of the pot. You do want to do what you do with the cannas, but you don't want to
Yes.
cut them back either.
Oh.
You just want to take them in to a coolish 40, 50 degree, a little bit of light, water them occasionally just to keep them moist, and let them rest for winter, which is what they need to do. Okay, so this is Barbara, Tess, Carolyn, GG. Thank you so much for having us at Rocky Hills today to talk about dahlias and everything else. And I think this is going to be a really informative show, so we appreciate
Well,
it.
thank you all for coming. I'm
My
delighted we
gosh.
could do this
I learned
morning.
an awful lot. I'm sure everybody else did. And so thank you so much for watching.